tonight, massive exemptions. The Strategic Development Projects Act number 14 of 2018 passes with a majority of 72 votes in Parliament today. This paves way for China Merchant to operate Hambantota Port with concessions. Do not predict. Elections Commissioner says that he is disappointed over politicians attempting to decide on the date of the election. Providing jobs. The United National Party says good governance added 400,000 jobs to the market. In international headlines, a final deal. British Prime Minister Theresa May pulls an all-nighter to deliver Brexit deal.
I very much welcome the prospect of moving ahead to the next phase.
And in sports, new sheriff in town. Former Sri Lankan cricketer Chandika Hathurusinghe selected as head coach for Sri Lanka.
Chandika Hathurusinghe will be our national team head coach effective 20th of December.
Good evening to all our viewers across Sri Lanka and around the world. I'm Mahesh Johnny. This is First at 9. Let's take you straight to Parliament. In terms of the Strategic Development Projects Act, Parliament passed 2 Gazette notifications related to the Hambantota Port Development Project, setting out several exemptions. It was passed with a majority of 72 votes, while 7 voted against. The Hambantota Port will thereby come into operation tomorrow under the new agreement and a new management of China Merchant Ports Holdings.
Dividends paid from profits. Even dividends are exempt from tax for 25 years from the date the agreement comes into effect. What are you attempting to take out of this port? We transferred the ownership, made them exempt from income tax, and not just that, they've been exempt from tax on dividends. A tax is levied on our businessmen when performing transactions at banks. In general, the income tax is applicable for earnings of 50,000 rupees. But what about the foreigners working at the Hambantota port? They are exempt from income tax for 7 years. Was it the Chinese who voted for you? You put forth various facts, but please comprehend that this investment of $1.12 billion is in fact a foreign direct investment. Every country in South Asia compete to bring such to their respective countries. It is actually reasonable to give tax concessions. These concessions were granted following cabinet approval and not fraudulently introduced. It was a port owned by us. The agreement was signed and then it's put to the parliament and tax concessions are given. When the agreement was being signed, we were unaware of such tax concessions were going to be granted. How can such an international agreement be debated on Friday and be signed on Saturday? This will not stop at $1.12 billion. They're prepared to invest a further $600 million. The Hambantota port cannot be made operational in just 2 phases. We will have to expand and move for phase 3 and 4. That requires money. I would like to state with responsibility that such foreign direct investments will only be good for the country.
I'm telling you, they are not ready to pay the full amount for this gazette, because this gazette does not cover the 157 of the Constitution. Whether it's China or any other country, we would like things to be in order so that it cannot be challenged. Secondly, what has happened, Honourable Prime Minister, I remember, in January, in his reply, when we raised the issue, he said, we will listen to all the FR applications in the Supreme Court. There are 3 more applications which have not been finalised. You all had enough time. It is a sub judice matter. That is why you need a 2/3. We don't want China to fall in difficulty because of your conspiracies.
No, just one clarification.
That is the whole issue. From the day you all took the government. Yes. Okay, Prime Minister. Okay.
Which is the international treaty or agreement you are referring to?
The treaty that you are trying to get approval today.
That been passed by
there is no treaty. You have not come with a treaty.
This is not a treaty.
A gazette cannot supersede a treaty.
Sovereign countries. It between a company.
Okay. No. You are not getting the full amount.
Full amount will come as per the agreement, and in 6 months you will be. I hope.
My dear friend, you won't be there for 6 months.
I hope you'll be there.
The problem is that.
More from the Parliament. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, making a statement in the House, said that several cabinet decisions were taken to ensure that essential commodities are available for consumption considering the current cost of living situation. The Premier went on to say that the government has taken several steps to ensure economic prosperity for the people of this country.
Transformations in weather have had an adverse effect on the domestic economy. We expected an economic growth rate of 5.5 this year. The central bank, however, has reported that figure will slide down to 4.5 owing to drought and floods. The growth rate of the agriculture sector has become minus 1.2. The Treasury was given permission to import rice with the cooperation of the private sector and Satosa. We also decided to implement a mechanism to distribute rice across the country through the Cabinet Subcommittee on the Cost of Living. Meanwhile, the Cabinet decided to purchase rice from the private sector outside the conventional tender process. We have permitted coconut importers to bring in coconut flesh. Whole coconuts cannot be imported since there are issues with it, but flesh can be imported and we can provide it to the consumers.
State Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardena states political engagement of rehabilitated LTTE cadres is not a threat to national security. He made this comment responding to journalists at an event held in Biyagama yesterday.
It does not affect the national security. Thousands of rehabilitated LTTE cadres are there in the north and the east. I believe them coming into politics is a positive move. Coming into politics is better than being involved in terrorism. So there is no problem in them engaging in politics. There is no issue with national security and we are monitoring it. As the Minister of Defence, we have passed the matter over to the Terrorism Investigation Division. They are proceeding ahead with it. If a provincial minister does not accept the national flag, he can fly to some other country where he accepts the national flag. He doesn't have to stay here.
Parliamentarian M.A. Sumanthiran states that the Tamil National Alliance regrets the division in political ideology with the breakaway of several political parties of its alliance. Responding to journalists in Jaffna yesterday, the parliamentarian further said that the leader of the opposition, R. Sambandhan, called for unity within the alliance at any cost.
We are sad for allowing such a situation to manifest within the Tamil National Alliance. I am even ready to apologise from the people. It is a pathetic situation for a party dedicated for the freedom of the people to be divided due to allocation of seats. We are not a party who engages in politics for the sake of it. Accordingly, opposition leader R. Sambandhan said today to safeguard the unity of the party at any cost. It will be a relief to people to see us solve this issue. We request people to be patient.
In other local stories we have for you tonight, President Maithripala Sirisena emphasises the necessity of a state-private cooperation in order to improve the tea industry in Sri Lanka. He made this remark participating in the 2017 National Tea Awards ceremony held at the Nelumpokuna Theatre this evening. 30, 40, 50 years ago, when our tea had a higher demand and a supply in the international market, the officers appointed by the government became a reason for the downfall of the tea industry. The tea industry was heavily challenged due to corruptions within the business sector. In order to protect the tea industry from bracketeers, the state-private cooperation is very important in order to improve the tea industry. The Economic Research Unit of the Joint Opposition points out that natural disasters has nothing to do with the country's current economic status. Parliamentarian Bandulu Gunawardena highlighted that the controversial central bank bond issuance as the real recent cause of the country's economic strife. He was addressing a media briefing in Colombo today.
The Prime Minister in Parliament today made a statement of UNP's inability in handling the economy in the years of 2015, 16 and 17. He actually concealed the real reason, which is the economic collapse due to the central bank bond scam. The bond scam affected the interest rates. Foreign bond buyers withdrew from the market, which affected the foreign reserves, rupee depreciated. It also impacted taxes and the debt issue. This statement conveys the message that the coming year won't be a good one for the people, as they will have to endure the burden of a high cost of living. In the meantime, the Auditor General has stated that the level of debt which can be sustained by the GDP is 80%. In this backdrop, debt has risen to 83.3%. This badly affects the economy of the country. We urge the UNP to get down to ground level and observe the real situation.
The General Secretary of the United National Party, Kabir Hashim, says that the government of good governance has thus provided 400,000 jobs and is well on the way to achieving the target of 1 million. He made the statement addressing a media briefing held at the party headquarters, Sirikotha, this morning.
It's the principle of the UNP to do what we promised. And we don't say one thing and do another. The Rajapaksa regime sold the assets of this country. We were able to give the interior decoration tender of the Hyatt Hotel to $19 million, which they had planned to give at $26 million. Those transactions were not transparent and it cost the government a lot of money. How much of assets have they sold? Mahinda Rajapaksa recently said that he built every eye-catching building in the country. More than what can be seen, we did what can be felt during the past 2 years. According to the information from the central bank, we have given jobs to 400,000. We are on the way to achieving the target of providing 1 million jobs. We see that there is a change in the stance of the joint opposition when the elections are getting closer. We never come between the president and the former president. We don't have the habit of breaking parties. If they or anyone else want to get together, we wish them all well. Our only hope is that UNP grows and gets strengthened.
While the stage is set for the grand finale of Derana Dream Star Season 7, which will kick off tomorrow at the Sukadadasa Indoor Stadium. Apart from the contestants' performance, the gala event will also be live by performances from past contenders as well as reputed artists. It will be telecast live on TV Derana from 7:30 p.m. tomorrow, and the ultimate champion will be decided through the SMS votes of you and our viewers.
Representatives of the railway trade unions involved in the strike met with Secretary to the President, Austin Fernando, and held a discussion this morning. All trade unions continued their strike due to the failure of the discussions to resolve salary discrepancies, despite locomotive operating engineers being able to resolve their issues.
So we have to go by bus and we hope we find our way. It's a new experience, so whatever.
Two handcuffed prisoners of Munragala prison escaped last night while returning to the prison from the Siyamaladu Magistrates Court. Prison officials shot at prisoners, injuring one, but both managed to escape. World Soil Day 2017 was marked in Sri Lanka with a field day for farmers and agriculture officers in Ruwanpura, Nuwara. The Food and Agriculture Organization, together with the Natural Resources Management Center of the Department of Agriculture and the Central Provincial Department of Agriculture, conducted the field visit on the watershed approach to soil and water conservation. Officers of the Department of Wildlife Conservation in Hambantota and the officers of the Udawalawe Elephant Transit Home today rescued a tusker and her calf who had fallen into an unguarded pit in front of the Mattala Airport in Hambantota. A water monitor climbed a three-phase electric power line post in Mudithagama in Notriagama. The water monitor, however, was not harmed.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Welcome back, everyone. In other local stories we have for you tonight, the chairman of the Elections Commission has expressed disappointment over politicians' attempts to predict the date of local government elections. He made the remark during a meeting with representatives of political parties today.
A discussion was held between representatives of political parties and the chairman of the Elections Commission on the upcoming local government elections.
We discussed whether to hold the elections on one day or across 2 days. Representatives unanimously called for elections to be held on one day. The chairman of the Elections Commission expressed disappointment over public statements made on the election date by various ministers and party leaders. We drew attention to a violation of electoral law committed by the Prime Minister, and the Elections Commission admitted that he had indeed made a mistake.
I
didn't know of such a discussion. We had discussions recently, but those ended.
Meanwhile, today, the United National Party placed bonds for elections in a number of local government bodies in Colombo and Badula districts. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party, contesting under the symbol of the hand, placed bonds for several local government bodies in Kalutara, Matale, Kegol and Jaffna. The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna did the same for the Vavuniya district. The Janatha Vimukti Peramuna also placed bonds for some local government bodies in Matale, Vavuniya and Kurunagala. Meanwhile, a number of views were voiced across the political arena on the upcoming local government elections.
They can talk with us once they annul the agreement with the UNP and step out of the government. They still have time. The SLFP has not expelled anybody. They stepped out on purpose and formed a different party. They're the ones trying to split the SLFP. If D.V. Uppal can leave his ministerial post, why can't Mahinda Amaravira and the other ministers do the same? None of those who think their robberies will be uncovered will come to join us. All the thieves are on that side. The Prime Minister instructed us not to trouble the SLFP and carry out election activities in a friendly manner. That is how we will act.
Let's move on to business news now. International Monetary Fund Executive Board completed the third review of Sri Lanka's extended fund facility arrangement, which enables the disbursement of just over $250 million. On the 6th, the Executive Board of the IMF completed the third review of Sri Lanka's economic performance under the program, supported by a 3-year extended agreement under the Extended Fund Facility Arrangement. Completion of the review enables the disbursement of about $251.4 million, bringing the total disbursement under the agreement to approximately $759.9 million. Well, Bitcoin briefly crossed through the $17,000 mark in a volatile Asian trading, extending its record-breaking run. The cryptocurrency has soared about 70% this week, despite fresh warnings of a dangerous bubble. As concerns mount, an industry group has warned plans to start Bitcoin future tradings were rushed through. In a choppy Asian session, the digital currency breached new highs before falling back to about $15,000. Critics have said that Bitcoin is going through a bubble similar to the dot-com boom, but others argue it is rising in price because it is crossing into the financial mainstream. Well, China's foreign trade volume has grown 15.6% from earlier this year to $3.8 trillion in the first 11 months. Data released today by China's General Administration of Customs showed that China's exports reached about $2.1 trillion from January to November.
According to the GAC, from January to November, China's exports increased by 11.6%, while the imports surged 20.9% to approximately $1.7 trillion. The trade surplus was about $387 billion, which narrowed by 16.7% compared with the same period last year. The European Union, the United States and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations are still the three largest trading partners of China in the first 11 months. Compared with the same period last year, China's imports and exports with the EU rose 16.2% to over $570 billion, while China's imports and exports with the US increased 16.5% to $541 billion. The country's imports and exports with the Asian countries grew by 18.4% to $476 billion.
Let's take you to the stock market now. Sri Lankan shares edged lower today to their lowest close in nearly 3 months and mark their 5th straight losing week. The Colombo Stock Index lost 0.12% at 6,375.21. It fell 0.57% on the week, bringing the year-to-date gains to about 2.4%. Now let's cross over to Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange for a detailed report.
The turnover was 820.73 million rupees with 12.2 million shares changing hands in 2,304 trades. The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,906.03 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 234.56 million rupees and foreign sales were 422.33 million rupees.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Let's take you to international news now. British Prime Minister Theresa May struck a last-minute deal with the EU in a bid to move Brexit talks into the next phase. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said it was a breakthrough, expressing confidence that EU leaders will approve it.
According to the deal, the so-called divorce bill is expected to amount between 35 and 40 billion pounds. There will be no hard border with Ireland, and EU citizens in the UK and vice versa will see their rights protected.
I very much welcome the prospect of moving ahead to the next phase, to talk about trade and security and to discuss the positive and ambitious future relationship that is in all of our interests. But in the meantime, reaching this agreement now ensures that businesses will be able to make investment decisions based on an implementation period that offers welcome certainty.
Today's result is, of course, a compromise. Let me be clear, we still have a lot of work to do. The joint report is not the withdrawal agreement.
EU leaders are due to meet next Thursday for a European Council summit and must back the deal if post-Brexit trade talks are to begin. The UK will then have about a year to draft an agreement on future relations, which will have to be ratified by the EU nations and the UK Parliament before the UK leaves in March 2019. Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionist Party meanwhile said that its support for the final deal would depend on its contents. In the meantime, President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, says the bloc is ready to start negotiating a transition period.
We all know that breaking up is hard, but breaking up and building a new relation is much harder. So much time has been devoted to the easier part of the task, and now to negotiate a transition arrangement and the framework for our future relationship, we have de facto less than a year.
U.S. Republican Representative Trent Franks became the third U.S. lawmaker to announce he was resigning this week after being hit with ethics charges. His announcement came hours after that of Democratic Senator Al Franken, who was accused for weeks by several sexual harassment charges. Democratic Representative John Conyers also announced his retirement on Tuesday amid accusations of sexual harassment.
Republican Representative Trent Franks announced his resignation after two former staff members complained about discussions he had with them about surrogacy. Meanwhile, Democratic Senator Al Franken announced he would leave in a few weeks, although he denied some of the sexual harassment allegations against him.
I, of all people, am aware that there is some irony in the fact that I am leaving while a man who has bragged on tape about his history of sexual assault sits in the Oval Office, and a man who has repeatedly preyed on young girls campaigns for the Senate with the full support of his party.
Well, it is time to take a look at other stories making news across the world.
Tensions were high in Jerusalem today, the day after the powerful Palestinian Islamist group Hamas called on for a new uprising against Israel after US President Donald Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as the Israeli capital. Israeli police was deployed across the city flashpoints early on today, preparing for potential clashes after noon prayers. Hamas yesterday urged Palestinians, Muslims and Arabs to hold rallies against the US decision today, calling it a day of rage. UN Political Affairs Chief Jeffrey Feltman met North Korean Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho yesterday in Pyongyang. In a video allegedly released by North's official news agency KNCA, showed Feltman and Ri shaking hands and sitting down for a meeting at Mansudae Assembly Hall. Feltman, a former senior US State Department official, is the highest level UN official to visit North Korea since 2012. The UNHRC said yesterday that Rohingya refugees continue to flee Myanmar for Bangladesh, even though both countries set up a timetable last month to allow them to start to return home. Bangladesh and Myanmar agreed on the 23rd of November to start the return of Rohingya within 2 months. It did not say when the process would be complete. Fanned by gusting winds, a wildfire called the Lilac Fire north of San Diego in Southern California grew from 10 acres to 2,500 acres in just a few hours yesterday. Firefighters and helicopters sprayed and dumped water and fire retardant to try to contain the flames against the hellish backdrop of flaming mountains and walls of smoke.
You are watching Sri Lanka's trusted news brand, Other Derana 24/7.
In sports, President of Sri Lanka Cricket Tilanga Sumutipala confirmed today that former Sri Lankan cricketer and former coach of the Bangladesh national cricket team Chandika Hathurusinga is appointed as the head coach of Sri Lanka. Speaking to First at 9, he further said that Hathurusinga will take over duties as the new head coach on the 20th of December.
Chandika Hathurusinga, a former Sri Lankan cricketer, recently resigned from his post as the head coach of Bangladesh. Following the resignation, Hathurusinga was among the list likely candidates to fill the position of the Sri Lanka head coach. Speaking to First at 9, President of Sri Lanka Cricket Tilanga Sumutipala confirmed that Hathurusinga will be roped in as the head coach of Sri Lanka with effect from the 20th of December.
Chandika Hathurusinga is the head coach of the national team of Bangladesh. We have indicated and informed Bangladesh cricket that we are keen to have the services of Chandika Hathurusinga as our head coach if they permit and release him. So they said they are quite happy to release him based on our request. They have no objection, and therefore we would like to confirm Chandika Hathurusinga will be our national team head coach effective 20th of December.
Also in sports, Portuguese superstar Cristiano Ronaldo clinched his 5th Ballon d'Or award, being voted the best football player in the world. Ronaldo edged out Lionel Messi and Neymar to win the award in a glittering ceremony held in Paris yesterday.
The Ballon d'Or is voted for by 173 journalists from around the world. It has been awarded by France Football every year since 1956, but for 6 years it became the FIFA Ballon d'Or in association with World Football's governing body and was awarded to the world's best player. However, FIFA ended its association with the award in September last year. On the night, Ronaldo added the 2017 Ballon d'Or to those he won in 2008, 2013, 2014 and 2016, with Messi being the only other recipient of the award since 2009. After helping Portugal win Euro 2016, he scored 42 goals for Real in all competitions as they won their 33rd La Liga title and 12th European Cup. He scored twice in a 4-1 Champions League final win over Juventus and netted 25 times in 29 league games.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Well, here is Sadhini Upeka at the other Derana Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition.
Good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Now, tomorrow's temperatures will average at around 28 degrees Celsius in coastal areas and 23 degrees in the central hills. A slight low pressure zone can be seen forming over the Uva province. Fair weather can be expected in most of the island except Mannar, which will see thunder showers. Now, in the south, showers can be expected in Mathura and Hambantota. Now, the deep depression in the Bay of Bengal is located nearly 950 kilometers to the northeast of Trincomalee, moving further away from Sri Lanka. It is likely to weaken and make landfall tomorrow morning in northeast India. It's time now for the city-by-city forecast.
Well, as it is Friday, let's end this working week on a high note. Time for your good story of the week. Well, when you speak to Nick Santanastos over the phone, he seems like an average 20-year-old. He's youthful and full of life, but in person, he's unlike just about anyone else. Nick was born with Hanhart syndrome, a rare genetic condition that manifests itself with either unformed organs or limbs. But that hasn't held him back from becoming a fitness model or a bodybuilder.
My name is Nick Santanastos. I have Hanhart syndrome. And Hanhart syndrome is a rare genetic disorder which either leaves the baby with undeveloped limbs or undeveloped organs. In my case, it was just my limbs that were, affected. Middle school was like my rock bottom. I was always asking, why was I born like this? I had suicidal thoughts. Wrestling started me on, the answer to why. I had to have standing ovations when I lost, and I just didn't understand because I'm a very competitive person. I'm like, you're not supposed to cheer on someone that loses. After the matches, I'd have parents come up to me and be like, hey, my kid never did a sport and he saw you today and now he signed up for all these sports, because he sees that if you're doing it, there's no excuse for him not to. It was like, that's why I'm here. And I wanted to break into the fitness industry because I was inspired by these fitness guys that, sit around with their six-pack next to their nice car. But getting into it, it's much more than that. It's how you can move people and show them that living a healthy lifestyle is not as hard as you think it is, especially if I can do it. I got a message from a UK mom. She had twins and one of the twins' legs had to be amputated. She said that they watched the videos together and he goes, like me, mom, he's like me, mom. I didn't have that as a kid. I didn't have someone to look up to. That kid can, oh, I don't know how to do this. Let me look at Nick's page. That's why I do this.
Well, that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. In the Viriyamuatta will return tomorrow first at 9. Be sure to join her then. When you have the time, make sure you connect with us on Facebook. For that, go to facebook.com/first@9 or on Twitter at twitter.com/first@9. I'm Mahesh Johnny. Enjoy the weekend. Good night.